On May 23, 1977, at 7 a.m., which will forever be remembered in the history of the Netherlands, just as the day was supposed to begin peacefully, a terrible announcement rang out on the train. It was the want hijacking. Panic spread inside the train within a moment. Before the passengers knew it, the train stopped moving. The train was taken over by a group of young men. The passengers were shocked and restless. No one knew what was going to happen. Meanwhile, at the same time, another unexpected event occurred. 4 young men entered the school of 105 children and teachers and took them hostage and announced to everyone, "This school is now under our control." In an instant, 2 dangerous events began to occur simultaneously. On one side, the train. On the other, the school became a terrible danger. It was not just a hijacking, but the beginning of a war. The confusion, panic, and suffocating situation all combined to spread like a fireball across the world. No one knew how this situation would end. What else is going to happen at 2 Quo? How does the outcome of this terrible incident begin? A dramatic hijacking that changed the entire nation and wrote a new chapter in history. In fact, the identity of those who carried out this hijacking is not just the name stuck in the list of hijackers. They were angry. The representative of the nation, Max Papal Alia, and his companions, they were the tools of the people, who have been neglected for a long time, who have never seen their rights respected. For example, Max Papila was an ordinary government employee, but his heart was filled with deep anger, because like him, the people of South Malan had been the victims of exploitation by the government, both hereditary and historical. They had never received justice. The government had never given them equal rights, but had constantly been unjust and neglected towards them. They could not accept this anymore. So one day they chose a new path. Their demands were clear. The 21 Malan prisoners should be released, and a 1 bus should be provided for them to escape safely, and then a 1 flight should be arranged as they wished. Deadline 48. If the government does not meet their demands, then the 105 children in the school will lose their lives. This is how a catastrophic situation was created simultaneously in the train and the school, reflecting a deep expression of anger against the government and its negligence. Their anger was for justice. However, in trying to prove this, they chose the path of hijacking. Since the start of this hijacking, the entire country was left stunned. No one could understand what was about to happen. Seeing the condition of the passengers trapped inside the train and the children held hostage in the school, a terrible panic spread among the people. Everyone was confused, asking the same question, what was going to happen next? Just like the passengers trapped inside the train that day, the public felt a deep sense of urgency, as if their time was running out. There is. Meanwhile, the government faces a difficult situation. How will they successfully pass this ordeal? What decision will they make? On the one hand, they had the security of the common people, and on the other hand, the government's responsibility became even greater when faced with the demands of the hijackers. Meanwhile, even if they accept the demands of the hijackers, they will become a failed government. The pressure to make a quick decision and the fear in everyone's mind that a wrong step can lead to a bigger danger. A strange dilemma arises among the ministers. Some ministers want to remain calm. They think that the problem should be solved through negotiations at any cost. But on the other hand, Prime Minister Jogden L started crying in panic. He knew that his decision might put the lives of 100,000 people at risk. There was a look of fear in his eyes, because this was not an ordinary situation, as if a terrible tragedy was about to begin, because even if he accepted the demands of the hijackers, he would prove to be a failed head of state. In such a situation, the government then took the path of solving everything quickly as a last resort. At the same time, there was huge unrest within the government at that time. On the one hand, saving lives. On the other hand, the political pressure created this hesitation, panic, and the government's uncertain decisions. The next turn of events was determined by the public's fear. The government's helplessness combined to create a dangerous equation. In such a situation, after an unknown and mysterious decision by the government, military preparations began with intense speed. However, ensuring public safety while avoiding the risk of death and handing over the hijackers was a huge challenge. The Dutch Marines began their preparations. Thousands of rounds of sniper ammunition and machine guns were prepared. The entire plan was organized for the moment of attack, ensuring that no one could step out of preparation for even a second. The snipers were set for precise shots, and the machine guns were in secure positions. The plan was to target the hijackers' fire in any situation and ensure that the passengers could be rescued safely. And then that intense moment finally arrived. The government's operation began when a suffocating situation prevailed throughout the country. First, efforts were made to quickly get the soldiers close to the train. Outside, explosions, sniper shots, and machine gun fire could be heard one after another. As the attack began, a terrifying chaos erupted. Although the plan was precise, finding the hijackers' positions inside the train and then gradually surrounding them was not an easy task for the soldiers. Still, the snipers began to take their shots at the right moments, and the machine guns fired as if it were a battlefield. Every step, every move was calculated. The precise sniper shots, the explosions, and the sound of machine gun fire made the entire area seem to tremble. The plan was specific, but in reality, it turned into a confusing and bloody situation as the Marines began to advance rapidly. Initially, their goal was to destroy the hijackers and to ensure the safety of the passengers, but the Marines kept firing one after another to achieve their goal. But the hijackers were not the only victims of this shooting. The passengers also started getting shot, those who thought they were on their way to freedom, but they themselves also became victims of shooting and then died one after another, and this created a terrible fear, not only in terms of death but also in terms of attack, because it was a terrible misunderstanding. The Marines thought the hijackers could still pose a threat, but in reality they were captured. But why did they open fire after that? The mystery is compounded here without giving them a chance to surrender or negotiate. And after this bloody incident, the government also seemed to be silent, because even if the attack was successful, questions arose about the circumstances and the real truth behind that success. The government did not say anything about how, why, and under what circumstances the hijackers died, leaving these questions buried forever. Why were they brutally killed by shooting despite the opportunity? Even the autopsy reports, which are usually prepared to explain the cause and circumstances of death, were very opaque. Some marks were secretly covered up in the moments before death. There were also some mysterious strange marks in the autopsy report, which no one could properly explain. The question began to arise whether these marks were caused by murder or continuous shooting, or were there some other planned incident? In this mystery, journalists started investigating and the media started investigating. One after another, the government kept raising questions. What was the government hiding? The pressure on the government increased through the investigation of journalists and the dissatisfaction of the family. Although after the operation was over, everyone was defending the government that Marina was a victim of the situation and opened fire. The actions of the Marines were justified. They tried to save lives. But the question arises here that how could such a horrific incident happen even after the hijackers were captured? The biggest question remains that what were the police doing then? Although the government was defending that they were only trying to protect themselves, on the other hand, the scene of death unfolding before our eyes, the descriptions of the injured passengers and the different autopsy reports all raised doubts. At that time, the government was only going to take such a loss of life to ensure their own safety and maintain their political position. These questions have not even begun to be answered today. The government cannot hunt down an uncomfortable truth. The people can forget. The government itself knew that the distrust that would be created in them after this decision would never be erased. But even after that, how could they allow such a bloody incident to happen? Although the entire event may have come to an end, the questions remain forever unresolved. What were the government's true intentions? And were their actions really justified in a country like the Netherlands? What do you think?